Joining me now, Sky's political editor, Andrew Clennell. Welcome, Andrew. I want to pick up your observations from this Defence review. We saw at least the non-confidential version released yesterday. Pretty mixed review if you go from the press today by Defence analysts. What have you made of the wash-up today?
Well, I think you're right to say it's mixed. I mean, it gets some praise for what it's trying to achieve. Where it attracts criticism is it's saying on the one hand there's urgency, but there's no new money in the forward estimates for action. So I think that is where it falls down a bit. Obviously, it's made a lot of cuts in order to pay for the submarines and missiles. And if there's criticism there, it's in terms of a perception it's a downgrading of the army. So overall, I think it has the right intention, but you'd like to see some more money.
Andrew Hastie was critical yesterday about the downgrading of the army. He says infantry army still needs those vehicles to hit the ground. They're on order. They're now being cancelled. He thinks they're very important. And the Shadow Assistant Defence Minister, Phil Thompson, of course, who has served in the army himself on deployment, he was critical, I just played a grab there before, critical about the timing of this release on the eve of Anzac Day. What do you make of the criticisms?
I think it's okay to release this thing yesterday, Peter, to be honest. I think it just serves to remind Australians about how important our armed forces are. So I didn't have a problem with that, to be honest.
I do like the phrase you use there, armed forces too, because I've seen a shift in language coming out of that review that would stop being basically, humanitarian workers in khaki, that would get back to the job of the Defence Force, to be an armed force and to defend Australia. So I think that was well-chosen words, Andrew. Hey, 2 weeks' time, we'll be sitting here on budget night. Analysis out today from PwC saying that the Treasurer can perhaps do some long-term budget repair. In a fortnight's time, we might see a surplus, wait for it, in 9 years' time. Yeah. Now, I'll be surprised if he does, but Labor like to promise a surplus. So I'll never forget Wayne Swan. Have a listen.
The 4 years of surpluses I announced tonight are a powerful endorsement of the strength of our economy, resilience of our people and the success of our policies.
Now, he never delivered $1 in surplus, and in fact, the statistics still say the last Labor surplus was when I was in high school, 1989. We saw yesterday estimates of $100 million in extra post-election spending from the government. Do you think he'll get there? Do you think he'll best his old boss, Andrew?
There's no way there's a surplus in these forward estimates, but I think there'll be reduced deficits. But given the deficits were projected as between 30 and 50 billion in the October budget, if you say halve them, so what? I mean, they've got a huge NDIS, Medicare, aged care costs coming down the line, not to mention after the forwards, more defence costs. So he's got a lot of headaches. It seems pretty clear from what they're doing so far that they're looking for savings in order to justify their spending in the inflationary environment. That is the appropriate way to go. But I don't think Jim Chalmers is going to be pretending about a surplus. And I reckon you get laughed out of the room if you say I'm delivering a surplus in 9 years. 10-year projections are met with the scepticism they deserve, Peter.
Well, just on that point, and I agree with you there, but I was wondering whether they were going to do some sort of pea and thimble trick by putting out a 10-year projection, because I looked at that number today from PwC, within 9 years, so they could do a 10-year projection and crow about some sort of surplus. Do you think that's likely?
I think it could happen, but I think if they went for that, it'd be embarrassing.
All right. This tradies pain that's coming, the instant asset write-off, that will be scrapped. We know it was very popular. Tools, equipment, even utes could fit in the envelope. Is it going to go, do you think? And what's the politics of it going?
Yeah, I think it's going to go. Scott Morrison obviously worked hard, as John Howard did, to attract that vote. And I think if you look at a seat like Lindsay and a few others, you can see that worked. But it's a bit like El Mito, the lower and middle income tax offset. In the budgets previous, we knew it was coming off at a certain date. You've had time as a business to go and buy things and get the offset. So I think if they're looking for more revenue, that is one lever they can pull without too much controversy.
All right, give us an update on this Sally Rugg, Monique Ryan soap opera. Documents filed in the federal court. These are new documents. Well, we've got Rugg now claiming that Ryan tried to sack her 4 times, she says, in 5 weeks, that the pair clashed on a number of times. There were required online meetings on weekends with 20 minutes notice. I think that's pretty normal in politics, but she seemed to think it was extraordinary. And then she also says now, Sally Rugg, that all of this comes down to the way the Prime Minister cut the staff to crossbenchers, saying that his decision to do that is a breach of workplace law. 37 pages in all, Andrew. I'm interested in your take of what's in there, but also, do you think this is impacting the standing of Monique Ryan in Kooyong?
Look, it can't help but do that. Yeah, and the argument is, you know, the Fair Work Act requires you to consult before you cut the staff. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's what I read today. But from Albanese's point of view, he did not believe crossbench MPs should have more staff than a government backbencher. And when you put it that bluntly, it seems to make a bit of sense. They've got a bit more of a profile than a government backbencher, admittedly, but they are both backbenchers at the end of the day. I think it has damaged Monique Ryan, but we've got a long way to play. You saw the Aston result. You saw how difficult it is for the Liberal Party in Victoria. There's no guarantee that Josh Frydenberg can win that seat back. He's in a stronger position than he was because of this Sally Rugg affair, but I certainly wouldn't be putting my money on Josh Frydenberg yet when we know that Simon Holmes' Court's money is going to go heavily in Monique Ryan's favour again.
Yeah, and of course they've got the benefit of the different donation rules at a federal level, which I think has made an impact on their lack of success at a state level. I think you're right. And I have to say, I back in the Prime Minister. I do think crossbenchers are at the same level as backbenchers. So I think that's one the PM's got right. Thanks for your time, Andrew.